Understanding Dementia, Progression. Dementia is a progressive disease, which means that it gets worse over time. Although there are several different diseases that cause dementia, most eventually become quite similar in their symptoms. The most commonly used way to reference progression is the three-stage model. The stages are referred to either as early, middle, and late stage, or as mild dementia, moderate dementia, and severe dementia. Some healthcare professionals use the Global Deterioration Scale, also called Risberg's scale after the person who created it, to measure the progression of Alzheimer's disease. This scale divides Alzheimer's disease into 7 stages of ability. Although the Alzheimer's Society, we generally discuss progression using the 3-stage model, we want to also mention this 7-stage model primarily so that you can understand or ask better questions if a healthcare provider says something to you about a stage of dementia that doesn't seem to really fit with the 3-stage model. It's important to clarify which of the models they are using. So stage number 1 is no cognitive decline. One of the reasons that this is called the Global Deterioration Scale is that every one of us fits somewhere on this scale of 7 stages. And so stage 1 is no cognitive decline, no problems with memory or cognition in daily living. Stage 2 is very mild cognitive decline. So someone may forget names and locations of objects. They may have trouble finding words sometimes. We would consider this natural age-related changes. Stage 3 is mild cognitive decline. Changes are now beginning to be noticeable, either to the person experiencing the changes or to those around them. The person may have difficulty traveling to new locations or difficulty handling problems at work. If someone is diagnosed at this stage, often they would be diagnosed with MCI, or mild cognitive impairment. Stage 4 is considered moderate cognitive decline. A person in this stage has difficulty with more complex tasks like finances, shopping, planning dinner for guests, for example, where there might be a multitude of dishes with different timing that all need to be come to the table all at the same time. This is considered mild Alzheimer's disease. Stage 5, moderately severe cognitive decline. A person may need help to choose clothing, for example, or prompting to bathe. This is considered moderate Alzheimer's disease. Stage 6, severe cognitive decline. The person may have a loss of awareness of recent events and experiences. They often require assistance bathing, and it isn't uncommon to develop a fear of bathing. The person may have and is likely to have a decreased ability to use the toilet, or they may be incontinent. This is considered moderately severe Alzheimer's disease. And stage 7, very severe cognitive decline. In this final stage, vocabulary becomes limited, eventually declining to single words and perhaps no words. The person loses the ability to walk and to sit and likely requires help with eating. However, today we're going to look a bit more at the symptoms associated with the 3-stage model. As I go through these symptoms, it can be helpful to keep in mind the images of the brain from the Dementia and the Brain session, particularly the image showing the deterioration of the brain. And if you haven't yet watched the Dementia and the Brain video, you might want to watch it now. While the image I'm referring to was a picture of a brain with very advanced Alzheimer's disease, the reason it's important to keep it in mind even in the earlier stages is that it can help you to understand that the symptoms we'll talk about are related to physical changes in the brain and are not in the control of the person experiencing the changes. Early stages of dementia have symptoms that are already beyond what we would consider normal age-related memory decline. And those symptoms are beginning to make an impact on the person's daily life. These are common symptoms, but keep in mind that each individual with dementia will be different and not necessarily experience every symptom. We're going to talk about the symptoms in each of the 3 stages in 4 broad areas: mental, emotional, behavior, and physical abilities. So in the mental arena, in the early stages of dementia, someone may experience mild forgetfulness. They may begin misplacing objects. You may notice a limited attention span and the beginnings of communication difficulties as they struggle more to find the right word. And they may have difficulty learning new things and following conversations. There may also begin to be problems with orientation. For example, someone may become lost much more easily. In the emotional area, moods shift easily, so quickly moving from happiness to sadness and off to something else. There may be an increase in depression and a loss of interest in social activities. You may notice that the person initiates activity less often, but will certainly be interested in participating when they get there. Often, people with dementia tell us that they feel that they are judged as being lazy, but it's particularly important to understand that this change is likely because of a deterioration of the part of the brain that switches us on and allows us to activate an activity. When that part of the brain is damaged, we cannot initiate the activity ourselves, and it can be very helpful to have someone who will help you out with that. In behavior, passiveness, withdrawal, and restlessness, any blend of those may become more obvious. And in physical activities, you may notice an increase in mild coordination problems. That is, you might suddenly start experiencing a lot more bruises as you suddenly start bumping into things all the time. In mid-stage of dementia, things begin to intensify. And again, these are common symptoms and people will not necessarily experience every one. In the mental arena, there's continued and intensified memory problems. The person may begin to be forgetful about their personal history. Potentially, they may have an inability to recognize family and friends. This can be very, very distressing, both for the person living with dementia who forgets and for the family. I like to point out that often in this stage, the person has not actually forgotten family and friends, but they may not recognize the exterior package. I don't know about you, but I don't look the way I did when I was 20 or 30 or 15. And so depending which person, which age the person is remembering, they may not recognize the exterior changes that have come with age. I think that's important for both of you to know because it doesn't mean that you have forgotten the person or that you have been forgotten, just that you may not be recognized in that moment. There may be a disorientation of time and place. Increasing language difficulties. You may find the vocabulary is quite shrunken, and so precise language becomes more difficult. And there may be visual spatial problems. In the emotional area, we begin to see personality changes. There may be anxiety or suspiciousness, increasing mood shifts, anger, perhaps sadness or depression. There could be hostility, apprehension, certainly unlikely to initiate social activities, and in the mid-stage of dementia, there may be actually resistance to going to events or insistence on leaving soon after arrival. In the behavioral arena, there's a declining ability to concentrate. There may be an increase in restlessness, for example, pacing back and forth or leaving to go on walks. Repetition, delusions. There can be aggression triggered by stimulus around, uninhibited behaviors, and passiveness. And in physical changes, there is an increased assistance required for daily tasks, for example, dressing, bathing, going to the toilet. Disrupted sleep patterns, or the person may require more sleep. They may sleep during the day and be awake at night. And you're likely to see appetite fluctuations. In the late stages of dementia, the changes are much more profound, and it can be very difficult to hear about these symptoms of late-stage dementia, and you may not be ready to hear about these changes. You may want to mute the sound until you see the next slide, and that's just fine. I would ask you to consider connecting with the First Link Dementia Helpline, or to talk to staff in your local resource center, or look at the resources on our website. There are 2 very good information handouts available as part of the Progression series, one on late stage and one on end of life. You may want to use the search on our website. So changes in the mental arena is very profound short and long-term memory loss. There may be an inability to process information. We tend to see severe communication impairment with very, very limited vocabulary and a significant disorientation about time, place, and people. The person may still feel emotions but have profound difficulty expressing them. And as a result, behavior may become a way of nonverbal communication and may become a way of expressing pain or unmet needs. The person may withdraw completely. The person sleeps longer and much more often. They're usually unable to walk independently or at all. There may be a complete loss of the ability to speak, often loss of bladder and bowel control. There may be difficulty eating or swallowing. The person is unable to dress or bathe, and they may lose weight. As we talk about all these different symptoms, it's very important to keep in mind that these scales represent a general description of patterns. They are not specific to individuals. If you have met one person with dementia, you have met one person with dementia. Everyone's brain is different. The brain damage happens in different ways and different parts of the brain for each person. Individuals may not move precisely through the stages. Some early stage symptoms can begin in mid-stage for some people. For some individuals, a typical mid-stage symptom may appear in early stages. It all depends on where the protein deposits or vascular changes are causing damage in the brain. The decline might look different depending on the exact form of dementia as well. It's common for people with Lewy body dementia to have fluctuations in their cognition, up and down. People with Alzheimer's disease tend to decline slowly and steadily, whereas with vascular dementia, the decline can be more stepwise, depending on how often and where the strokes occur. Therefore, the stages are not exact. It's also not possible to estimate the time it will take to move through the stages. That varies from person to person as well. Nor is it possible to estimate the life expectancy of someone who is diagnosed. Progression differs according to many factors, including other medical conditions that the person is living with at the same time as dementia. It's also been it's been established in research that the protein changes that cause Alzheimer's disease in particular can start to form 15 to 30 years before the onset of symptoms. Therefore, it's impossible to know precisely how long the individual has had the disease before they receive a diagnosis. Below this video, you'll find a link to a downloadable document that contains a list of helpful resources, including print resources that you can download. And of course, the Alzheimer's Society website at alzheimerbc.org contains a wealth of information. If you have questions about what you've heard here or any other questions about living with dementia, please don't hesitate to call our First Link Dementia Helpline. English services are available Monday to Friday between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m.